Hey guys, this is Savannah from earthandwater.co. We are on a journey of exploring and discussing, rather one-sidedly, honestly, because it's just me talking to my computer, isn't it? But anyway, we're looking about the Celestine Prophecy and all of the insights that go along with that. 1 through 9, that is. There are more insights. There's a whole book on the 10th insight, and I think the 11th as well. I have definitely read at least one of those, but it's been a really long time and they weren't as, life-changing for me. So maybe I'll go back and hit the cliff notes on that and refresh my memory and further on. But for right now, that'll be future projects. For right now, we're just going to discuss the 1 through 9, and this is number 6. So if you haven't heard 1 through 5, go back and listen to those first and then meet us here at 6, which is one of my favorites because it talks about control dramas. You know, in the 4th insight, we were talking about how we struggle with each other. There's a power struggle between every social interaction that we have, and how that's not good, and that's not the best way to get energy, and that's actually one of the worst way to get energy, because there is plenty enough energy for everyone to coexist happily and thrive. But we have been living in this world of lack for thousands of years, and we need to move into a world of abundance for the good of us all, because there is enough to go around. But fear and lack create a sense of limitedness, limitedness in resources and whatnot, and it's just a fabrication that we have. It's a false belief, guys. It's a false belief that creates hoarding in a lot of ways. So when people try to gather up all of the energy, then there's still more. When you're talking about energy specifically, there is more than enough to go around. But when you allow that to go into the world and reflect in the way it means of food and resources. For example, when the pandemic hit, everybody rushed out and started panic buying things, and that created shortages. So in that sense, there's definitely limited resources. But when all of us are being respectful of one another and each other's needs and not trying to take, then there's plenty. And that does translate here, because everything is energy and everything is a reflection of ourselves from a small standpoint, which goes out into the world. Our inside reflects our outside, and the individual reflects the masses, and the masses reflect what needs to be worked on within the individual. And once individually enough of us work on this aspect within us, that's when you start seeing the ripples of change out in your community and society and culture and all of that. But anyway, dialing it back a little bit, we're going to talk about the 6th insight and how control dramas. It's called control dramas, and this is how we've been gathering energy, stealing energy from others all of this time. And each one of us, every single one of us, operates under one of these control dramas by default. And we can't really start changing it until we start paying attention, until we notice that, for one, we know that these are things, and then for 2, figuring out which one we operate under, and then for 3, working there to do the work to change it. So control drama. Okay, so this means that we are controlling the narrative in our interactions to essentially gain as much energy as we can, because going back to the power struggle, every interaction leaves you either feeling drained when you walk away or full of energy when you walk away. And sometimes by default we can walk away from interactions feeling great, and we didn't operate under our control dramas in that sense, or because we didn't have to. Control dramas are activated when we feel like we're not in control, or we're being taken advantage of, we're not safe, we're not welcomed, essentially, in the social interaction that we're having. And some of us have automatically fallen into these control dramas per default. So we just automatically start controlling the narrative as soon as we start interacting with somebody. And we'll cover them. So let's look at what they are. So there's 4 of them. There's the Interrogator, the Intimidator, the Poor Me, and the Aloof. So let's go through and explain each one. The Interrogator, to start off with, is the person who gains energy from other people by essentially interrogating them. They're going to ask a lot of questions. They're going to pry. They're going to be nosy. They're going to push boundaries in finding information. And usually they do this with the sole purpose, and it isn't conscious, okay? They're not doing it on purpose. They're not aware that they're not doing good in this sense. But they're looking for something to frown upon about you, something to criticize about, something to make themselves look better, feel better, essentially. They're high and mighty about it. So when they find something and then they make you feel bad about it, they deplete your energy, right? If somebody makes you feel bad about something, then you start to feel small and like uncomfortable. Well, this is feeding them, and they know it. Well, they don't know it, but they understand that that's so, it's complicated. What I'm always trying to say is, here's a thing. Don't be hating on the people who have the thing. Just be aware that it's a thing, and once you're aware of it, you can notice it out in the wild when you're interacting with other people, and don't hate them for it. Just be like, oh, okay, so this is what they're doing and whatnot. So anyway, the next one is the Intimidator, which is essentially the bully. They're aggressive. They're going to push you around. It's very similar to the Interrogator, but instead of using words and questions and manipulation, they're just going to like be outright aggressive and pushy and stuff. And bullies are pretty easy to identify, and their victims are, this one's pretty easy to understand for most of us, I would think. If it's not, throw me your questions. I'm happy to answer them, especially in the Facebook group. I do best written word, and honestly, I don't even know if people are commenting on my podcast. I get email reminders or emails updates about numbers and downloads and views and stuff. So I know people are listening to it, but I don't know because Spotify doesn't allow you to leave comments, I don't believe. If they do, I haven't figured out how or where. I've never seen them before, and that's primarily where I operate. So if you're on Apple stuff, where I know that they allow comments and stuff, I don't have a clue how to work any of the Apple stuff, y'all. I'm sorry, it's too simple for me. But anyway, moving on. So the next one is the Poor Me, and you probably know exactly, and you probably somebody that personally probably popped into your head as soon as I said that. They're operating under the ploy for sympathy. They're trying to get sympathy for others. They're constantly complaining. They're always highlighting their troubles. They never miss a moment to be, oh, woe is me. And, they're exhausting because they're stealing your energy. Because, what do you do, right? You have to, if you tell people and you point out that they're doing it, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get angry with you. And then suddenly you're a jerk. But you're just trying to be like, hey, look, it's not all bad, is it? Jeez. But that's what's happening here, is they're operating under the control drama, looking for somebody to give them energy. And it's not a healthy way to gain energy, but at the same time, we don't know until we know, and some of us just know. I don't know. It's just a thing. It's a thing that we have to deal with in society and culture, and perhaps eventually we will collectively understand these things a little bit better, and then we'll have less people who are always in this poor me state of mindset and whatnot, because we're not a victim, y'all, okay? None of us are victims. We sure have been victims to certain circumstances and situations, and I'm not trying to belittle that at all. I'm never, ever, ever trying to unvalidate anybody's emotions, okay? Your emotions are valid. Your troubles are valid. Everything wrong in your life is valid, and you have a right to be sad about that. But there's a difference in sharing your troubles and looking for sympathy. And you just kind of have to navigate that as you can. You want to be aware that in telling people your troubles, you can very easily be stealing their energy. And you don't want to do that, right? You want to keep them at full capacity while also taking comfort in their being there for you and with you. And a lot of people are more than happy to help and whatnot, but let's try to be helpful and like constructive in the sharing of our problems and not just complaining, like flatline complaining. Just pay attention. You'll notice the difference if you're one of those, because all of us, like I said, every one of us falls into one of these categories. So it's best to know which one you're operating under, just so that you can be aware of it, because most of it's subconscious. It's not our fault. It's just a default thing that we picked up in response to our childhood and the interactions we had then and there. Anyway, so that's the poor me, control drama. And then we have the aloof, which is the last one. This person, the aloof, is vague and distant. They offer up very little to play into others' curiosities. They become, they're the dark, intriguing, mysterious individual. And the way they gain energy is by us poking and prodding and being like, hey, you're interesting. I would like to know more about you. But then they don't give up very much information, which leads you to pry even more, because, they keep you interested enough to keep prying. And this one's a hard one to navigate, I feel, and it may be because I am an aloof. That is my control drama. And throughout my personal history, through my life, it wasn't that I didn't think it was. It may have been. I'm not sure at this point, because, it's healthy to keep questioning yourself, I suppose. Just in the sense of making sure you're always making the right decisions. But it was never me trying to steal others' energy, I felt. It was just me trying to be protective of my own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and all of that, because when you open yourself up and you share with others, it's not always a positive thing, but I also, bringing back the point of the interrogator, I was around a lot of those, and I was also around a lot of intimidators. So those interrogators and intimidators will create the poor me's and the aloofs as a means of them trying to protect themselves. So that's what I was kind of trying to do, was protect myself. And then once I learned about all of this and how it affects others and energy and whatnot, I noticed then that I was an aloof, and I wasn't only protecting myself, but I was being frustrating to those who really were looking to just be there for me and get to know me and had all the good intentions, okay? Because when someone takes an interest in you and then you give them like a 2-word answer and just kind of like shut yourself off a little bit, that's stealing their energy, but it's also not helpful to you or them, who are honestly and purely and innocently just trying to build a relationship, So if you feel like maybe you're an aloof and you've been cutting yourself off from other individuals, that's definitely valid in the protection stance, but also make sure that you're not pushing away and shutting off those who really do mean well. And sometimes it can be hard to decipher which one's which, but, give people a chance or two, and if they keep showing you that they have negative intentions, then sure, cut them off then. But if they don't show you and you do just keep getting innocent, pure friendliness from them, then just trust that and be okay with it. Okay, it's okay to let people in. It's okay to love people. It's okay to allow people to love you. And I know it's scary, because the more we love someone, the more it can hurt if they ever leave us, which they inevitably will. And I don't mean that to be pessimistic, but to be realist. The only thing we're promised in this life is life and death. And it is absolutely terrifying to think that one day we will be separated from those we love. but it's also a fact of life that we can't hide from. So in knowing that, it's not easy to go into relationships unattached. I mean, we get attached, we sure do. It's easy to get attached, but it's okay, okay? It's okay to love people and let them love you and squeeze every bit of love and awesomeness and togetherness and community and all of the good things in life out of these relationships before they inevitably drift. We'll call it drift because that's less scary. It's not always dramatic. It's not always life and death. It's not always drama and whatever. Sometimes people just drift, and that's okay too. People come into our lives to teach us a lesson, to give us love, to be here. You know, all of the best things in our lives, in this world, in this life to live, is our relationships and the love that we foster between them. So do yourself a favor, do others a favor, and try not to shut yourself off from that, because the only thing left after that is darkness and despair, and that's no good. Anyway, let me know somehow, somewhere, like, again, preferably in the Facebook group where I will actually see it. Let me know which control drama you're operating under and how you feel about all of that. And did you recognize control drama, or do you recognize control dramas in the people around you now? Try not to call them out on it too much. Bullies, definitely call out bullies. And even the interrogator, you can call them out and the bullies out, and oftentimes you can call them out and they will be like, oh, I didn't intend, I wasn't meaning to, and then they'll kind of like fix it. And it's usually that simple with interrogators and intimidators. You're like, yo, you're being a little pushy, or yo, why are you being mean, or why are you bullying, or did you realize that you're being kind of aggressive? And oftentimes they'll back off. The poor me and the aloof can be a little bit trickier to navigate when you're trying to point out this stuff, which is why this is why the control dramas, the Sixth Insight, is one of my favorite ones, because I quote it all of the time. I tell people about it all of the time. And I start out with, so here's the control, here's what this is, here's what it means, here's what it does, and everybody on the planet operates under one of them subconsciously. And they'll be like, ooh, I'm interested now. What is that about? Tell me more. And I'm like, okay, well, there's 4 of them. There's this one, this one, this one, and this one. This is the one I am. And that kind of makes it more of a safe place for them to be like, oh, crap, I'm a poor me. I am. Or, oh, I'm an aloof. Yup. And then so that just kind of brings awareness in a safer place, a more gentler way, and they're oftentimes more receptive of that. But anyway, happy, energy, healthy, gaining ways, and namaste. Come hang out with us. I'll see you next week. Take a few minutes to sit here and breathe and relax your face and shoulders and just create space to exist for a second. I love you guys. I'll see you next week.